So today I will cover three main topics, like what is systems thinking, giving you an idea of systems and basic principles of system thinking, and how you can apply these systems thinking for problem solving or analysis. And here I will bring the context of sustainability and system thinking. I will also explain various systems commonly used for environmental or societal contexts. And I will then introduce you to integrated, complex, adaptive, and socio-technical framework, which I have developed through my research. And finally, we will talk about the methods and approaches for system thinking, which possibly many of you might know few of them, but we will see how we can integrate them for systems thinking and problem analysis. Idea of systems. Here in the background, you can see there are so many things connected. However, this idea of the system is not new. It is discussed in almost all disciplines since its origin in 17th century. And it has emerged as a meta discipline or as a meta language on its own. And there has been a seminal work on system thinking by Chuckland until date. Like, he started this research in 1981, and to date, he has been researching on it. So systems thinking you will find in almost all disciplines like biology, chemistry, and eventually it is also now used for the explanations of ecology, engineering, economics, anthropology, geography, sociology, cybernetics, and so on. So it is now used in almost all disciplines. And according to the Chuckland and the Arnold and Well 2015, system thinking is about consciously organized thinking process, okay? And it is also called critical thinking sometimes, and it is also maybe called decision-making approach or decision-making, the way we decide on something, okay? And therefore, system thinking is a worldview which allows appreciation of holistic thinking, having interconnection between the elements of which system thinking is made up of. And these elements are called system components. And so it can include human and non-human elements. So we have both components here, and it can also encompass physical, natural, social, economic, and cultural and cognitive attributes. So it is established in a form of a wider linked processes between the humans, that is users, and the technologies, that is structures, and these components contribute and exhibit a properties such as drivers, outcomes, feedbacks, and so on. And thus, the core concept of system thinking is like adaptive whole, which means that any system, when it is pressured by some problem, it tries to adjust itself, adapt itself to that, and then the way it adapts, it acquires some new properties, and these are called emergent properties. And so, as you all mentioned, some of the other parts of this idea, which I really like, as if like systems can be just small as a room of your own environment. It can also be open, it can be closed. It is upon you where you are basing your context, okay? And so here, yeah, I've already spoken about this systems thinking. And so basic principle of system thinking are like big picture. A big picture principle is that you have to look upon the beyond your discipline, okay? The beyond your discipline in the sense you have to look at the widest possible way. So if you are in a biology, or probably if you are dealing with food and you are expert in only biology, but that will not work for your problem. You have to be expert or aware of what chemistry is involved, what users' preferences are involved, and so on. And therefore, you need to go beyond your own expertise and look at a bigger picture. Secondly, it is long-term and short-term principle, which suggests that the best approach to strike a balance about any decision is to consider maybe short-term immediately, if you like a week and quarter or so. But however, you have to again think about the long-term, that is strategic changes impacting on for the better of the overall performance of that system. The third is dynamic, complex, and interdependent principle, which is again, as I mentioned, due to several interconnections between them. If the human component changes its preferences, all other components which are non-human need to change accordingly. And so you need to understand the complexities and dynamic between this and the interdependence between all the components. And you have to assess those relationships along with the internal system as well as the external environment. And so there is a lot of dynamism going on in a system. Another principle is measurable versus non-measurable data principle, which encourages organizations to challenge the tendency to see beyond what they have measured already. So they might have measured that, okay, so for example, in the COVID scenario, we have measured that how many people die in 28 days after being infected by COVID. But we haven't assessed what is the long-term impact of COVID on the general public health. And therefore, what is measurable, that is fine. That gives some idea of what is happening. But you need to go beyond that and find out several other qualitative ideas as well, such as moral attitudes and impressions to understand the system's impact. Then we are part of the system principle. And that means whatever we are doing currently, it impacts all of our system components in the system. That means we are the decision makers. And therefore, we need to understand all these relationships, and we need to take the ownership of our own system. Okay? And therefore, systems thinking is uniquely placed as a language of discussing complex systemic issues, and the professionals look as a project. For example, they are taking as a project, they need to look as a project as a whole, rather than dealing with their own expert element of that project. And this is really, really important, which these all principles advocate. Before going into detail of this applicability of systems thinking for problem solving, we need to know why should we think differently, isn't it? And not keep thinking the way we are doing traditionally. And I assume that, and now I'm sure, I initially thought that I will be assuming, but no, I am sure now that you all have come across the concept of sustainable development. And this concept have been proposed to offer alternative development pathways. And this has been a prominent driver for sustainable practices, such as reduction in resource use, reduction in energy use, or low or zero carbon emissions, and reducing impact on climate change, and so on. So taking a broader sustainable development concept, it aligns with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and This includes many important goals and targets such as zero hunger, zero poverty, reducing inequality, and providing clean water and air, making our consumption and production sustainable, and so on. So the traditional society system, such as food system, transport system, housing system, educational system, etc., are relatively closed. You know, the traditional one. I'm talking about traditional one. And therefore, we need to keep thinking that how we can change them, how we can change our decision making, which is not as usual. But it is hard to change because societal systems are claimed to be locked in. You know, because you become comfortable in that type of environment, you do not want to change. It is a very natural human tendency that you don't want to change. But you have to be innovative. And again, all the systems are highly dependent on technological solutions. That technology will bring the change. But it is not always true. Technology may provide you that, but you need to have a tendency to adopt that change given by the technology. So, and we now have many empirical evidence that traditional societal process and practices underpin unsustainable values, cultures, and institutions. And you have already given few examples here about the using of fossil fuels. These systems are not capable of fully appreciating wider values, cultures, and sustainable institutional practices. So wider values, here again, I bring one of your examples saying that, well, it is good for at country level, but it may not be good for good globally. So these are the things we need to now think of. Moreover, there are the challenges of multiple and deep uncertainties, dynamics of interdependencies, of wider values, cultures, and institutions across the globe, and intergenerational problems. So these are again all the things which are putting pressure on us. And there again, you know, we have come across the governance structure, which are absolutely sometimes top down, or they could be bottom up, but we need integrated approach there too. So for these reasons, these approaches need to be improved and effectively advanced for sustainable transformation. And there are arguments to support that there is a need to transform theoretical framing. That is, what theory we embed and where we take these decisions. What is the underlying values we have, perceptions we have? And here I give you some example because our systems are working on a very limited context. That is, for example, if we want to address poverty from social framing only, then it will necessitate the use of unlimited resources. And therefore, it is not useful, isn't it? Like if we keep on using our resources, then also it is not going to it is going to impact on our natural resources, which is environment. So we cannot think of only one approach. Okay, when we try to address poverty from the economic framing, then it encourages capitalization and globalization, which again has separate impacts on the system. And again, that there could be negative impact, and that they are important to be understood. And then if we approach poverty from the organizational economical point of view, then also we encourage investment in capacity building. And this also requires resources, and maybe it also impacts on the skill problem where we might lose interest of few sectors or section of people who do not have those skills. Likewise, if we approach poverty only from the political framing, then it will put emphasis on regulatory regimes. However, applying, it may not guarantee, full sustainable transformation, because there can be wherever there is a law, there are again drawbacks of the law. And therefore, the current framing of our societal systems is not so competent to allow us to capture the realities and the dynamics of complex systems. And therefore, we need some effective solutions to this. Now, again, let us see, systems thinking is one of those thinking constructs, or you can say the idea, which has offered us some potential to address these problems of interdependence, challenges, dynamism, and so on. However, let us look at some constructs which have been offered to us. And there is a widespread recognition and discourse underpinning science and practice, which is by Downing, Fayzi, and Corrad, and O'Brien. And through this coupled human and natural system, they put emphasis on environmental protection, conservation, and enhancement. However, this system put immense importance to environment, which are not capable to deliver economic sustainability. Because if you ask your farmer to have organic agriculture, you will ask them to leave the crop, not to crop in their farms for 2 or 3 years to have that fertility back into their land. And they will be out of living for 2 or 3 years. So there should be a solution such that it allows them to have some economic sustainability as well in that. Secondly, we have socio-technical system. Socio-technical systems put emphasis, and here we already saw one very good example of socio-technical system given by someone, I don't remember the name, that you have to look at the people's perspective, how the products are developed. So social technical system put emphasis on the influence of social perspective on technological development and vice versa. That is, the customer or the users demand for the social system, and those influence how the technologies are shaped. And the producers or manufacturers produce technologies in the market which influences the customer's habit and lifestyle. Thus, socio-technical systems influence each other, okay, social and technical systems. And knowing socio-technical systems are very important. However, they do not guarantee sustainable transformation, okay? Because people would keep on wanting more, which does not, and the technology will allow it to give more, which is consumerization, and that is the main problem currently. Okay, so, but it does not, and therefore I say it does not guarantee sustainable transformation. However, GILS has also provided, GILS 2002, has also provided us with 3 operational levels within the socio-technical system, which I will be discussing in the following slide. Next is complex activity system, and I will explain this system in detail again in the next coming slides. Finally, owing to the several critical requirements for decision-making in the effective sustainable transformation, broader conceptualization of sustainable development has a potential to deliver paradigmatic shifts in framing and decision-making. And therefore, we need to think very, very broadly about our sustainable development. So now I come here back to the multi-level perspective of socio-technical system given by Gills 2002. And here I introduce you to 3 operational levels, which are called macro, meso, and micro. And they are also called landscape, regimes, and niches. Now, niches are equipped with high-profile and competent actors that increase the potential of actualizing the transition. So they are the innovators. And now these innovations occur at micro level, and they should be translated to meso level. And here, when this is needed, the landscape, that is macro level, which is full of policies and strategies and the outer environment, they influence heavily on how these innovations will get dispersed or marketed into the regimes. And effective governance is an important factor which these landscapes will do. And having all the trajectories and coming together, there will be a market space for those innovations, and they will get transformed into the regimes. That is how this multi-level perspective works. Now I come to complex adaptive system, which is called CAS. And CAS deals with the problems at organizational level. And so in this previous slide, I showed the connection between, let us say, regimes are made up of organizations, and niches are made up of individual products and services or individuals who are innovators. And the landscape are full of, so here I have showed you the connection between you as an individual, maybe as an innovator, and then connection to your organization or sector or regional level. And then you also take into consideration to our consideration the external policies, okay? And so coming back to this CAST system, that is complex adaptive system, we have 2 figures. And these 2 figures, according to these 2 figures, again, they emphasize all the interconnections and interdependence of all the system components. So in the first figure, an organization has 2 environments, which we have already, I think, got some few examples already spoken by you, that internal and external. Now, internal environment is composed of system agents, and they exhibit properties like self-organization and emergence. So for example, a new organization, environmental regulation demands an organization to change its processes and practices, then it adjusts it to that new regulation. And therefore it requires to develop new process and practice. And that becomes its emergent state. And it will get adjusted to that new regulation. Alongside, the roles and responsibilities of other system components will also change. And that is termed as connectivity. And the various aspects of performance, such as their social impact or environmental impact, will also change. And that is called, it will impact in different aspects or dimensions, and therefore that is called dimensionality. Okay, so the influence of these pressures are dynamic and many times uncertain, and therefore they are also referred as dynamism and rugged landscape. And the co-evaluation is always going on between these 2 environments, which is shown on the upper square of that triangle in figure 1. Now coming to the deeper understanding of the system and looking at the relationship of the components in the CAS, they exhibit adaptive capabilities and responsiveness to feedback. And here figure 2 tells us that system agents connect among themselves in a varying degree. Someone have different roles, responsibilities, but they connect each other. They have different goals, they have different governing rules, and so on. And these all, when they connect, it is called schema. And they all, and therefore, due to their being into schema, it acquires key characteristic. Okay, and then whatever they exhibit as their actions is reflected into performance landscape. And whatever the system delivers out of that is called system outcome. So this is called CAS. Now, what I have done here, I have integrated multi-level perspective of socio-technical system and the CAS mechanism here, and I'm presenting you an integrated, complex, adaptive, and socio-technical system framework. Now, this framework has a properties of multi-level properties, which I already shown, and you can see here I have individual, organizational, and inter or intra-organizational levels, 3 levels, and therefore they have multi-level perspective. Secondly, we have properties of CAS, where you can see system agents like box A and E are in the system agents boxes, and the system agents work there. And they do all their actions, or they have roles and responsibilities depending on the governing rules, which are in box B and F. And their performance is captured. That is, they will act according to their governing rules, and their performance is captured in box C and G, respectively. And when they are performing, they encounter some challenges. And these challenges are feedback to them as part of the governing rules, and that will impact on change in governing rules. And that can be seen in box D and H. And while this is happening, they will impact on several different dimensions of sustainability as per their outcomes, and that is captured in the outcome box, which is called performance strategic outcomes. And then finally, balancing all those dimensions, we want to achieve multidimensional sustainability of a system. Okay, so this is a theoretical background of integrated CAS and socio-technical system. And this is developed as part of my PhD. And then we have some examples also where we can apply these integrated framework to understand what was the problem, what are the governing rules, who are the system agents, and how we can deliver. But what I will do, I'm not sure how our time permits, so I will not, these are the examples, but you can explore them in your own time. So, or we can discuss in Q&A when we get time. So these are just examples, but if you have understood that theoretical framework, you can apply anywhere, any of the societal systems. Okay, I have 2 examples. This is one applied on the energy efficiency and sustainability for an housing sector, but specifically my case was on English housing, and therefore I have applied here. And then I have secondly applied in a workplace strategy, that is systems thinking and analysis of a workplace performance, looking at agile working. And here also I was able to establish that this framework works very well to try to solve a problem and to achieve desirable outcomes. so first of all, we will think about qualitative research. And the qualitative research is a technique which applies inductive reasoning for deeper understanding of the context. So it asks us the questions like how, why, what questions, okay? So just now, I think we have already exposed to that type of example here, that we can ask, we can make a question here about how you are feeling about it or what you are doing about it and so on. And that will have open questions normally, and it will be it will allow you to conceptualize complex processes and then contribute to theory. And therefore it is called inductive reasoning, that while this is all data shows that these patterns are happening, and therefore we induce that this is our understanding. So that is what you do from qualitative analysis. And quantitative analysis is used to improve understanding of individual agency as well as mutual interactions and influences, and to explicit realities based on the reliable data and convincing arguments. So you use this qualitative analysis to identify some theoretical aspects. And what are the techniques used here? They are normally in interviews, could be observations, just as GSI you mentioned, they are all observations, and documents, all type of reports and other things you can use. You can use focus group discussion, that you can go to a particular group and ask them what are they feeling about. And then you can analyze into themes and concepts, or you may be investigating also one theme or concept or many themes and concepts. The purposive sampling, but here you will need purposive sampling because you want to pick up the right person to answer your question. And therefore it will be purposive sampling techniques you have to use, which would be useful. Sometimes random techniques are used, but I believe in qualitative, if you want to get a rich data, purposive sampling is useful. And the data analysis is generally you get so much data that you have to keep on reducing. That is, you have to categorize, that you might find several words are synonyms or used in a same way. And so you have to capture those all meanings into one category or one concept. And that is called data reduction process. And so you have to reduce that data into a meaningful constructs and outcomes. And that is how you can help yourself to understand a phenomena or a problem from the qualitative perspective. It normally captures human perspectives and experiences, and it plays an important role in understanding those perceptions. Secondly, we come to quantitative research, where we also have received some examples here when you spoke. Quantitative research techniques use deductive reasoning, and it identifies social reality and integrate objectivism. So it deals with facts. Statistical probability, we have also come across this, and they are all quantitative research, and they are very, very important to establish the facts, commonly based on statistical probability and applying, sometimes we also apply cause and effect principle here, that because this is correlated maybe or not correlated, then you understand if this is happening, this will happen, or if this is happening, this does not happen. And that is how this statistical, like if it is high probable scenario or not, and those things are identified through statistical analysis. And therefore, these are also very important research methods. And the tools or instrument we use for quantitative research is like survey, questionnaires, and laboratory experiments. And we also deal with very large numerical data here. Numerical data, okay? And this data normally measure relationship between two or more variables. And nowadays, it is also very common to use Likert scales. And these are very important because it satisfies the requirement of scientific reasoning and allows interpretation of the results in a specific context for qualitative research as well. Because it, though they are numbered, like how likely would you buy this, very likely, likely, not likely, or something like that. If you have come across those Likert scale, you might have come across your customer care services that how much did you like our product, rate from 1 to 10. And if you say 10, which is very satisfied, then they would say that our customers were very satisfied with our product, and that is translated into qualitative context. Okay, and a range of statistical analytic approaches can be employed here in measuring and analyzing your numerical data. For example, like descriptive analysis, multivariate analysis, and so on. And this can be useful in making connections between different stakeholders' perceptions within the same context. Okay, it is difficult to generalize quantitative research. However, if it is a very, very large data, then we are able to generalize it. So given the importance of qualitative and quantitative research both, it is necessary to apply mixed methods. And these mixed methods will allow you to incorporate multiple perspectives, that is from individual and collective as well. And this will make a more robust approach. And to understand the system processes, it will also allow you to understand the challenges of sustainable transformation and multidimensionality. Also, we need to apply now these research methods on a general society and organizational functions, and therefore explicit mixed method design, that is like all three together here. For example, literature review, online survey, and interview. So literature review is mix of things, like it has some facts as well, it has some qualitative. So qualitative and quantitative data you can get from the literature. Online survey would give you mainly quantitative data, and interviews will give you mainly qualitative data. And if you combine all these and then triangulate your research data, then you will understand more combination of things coming out of that. The main concepts will be surfaced out, and which is more important and more logical to be applied. And it will also maximize engagement and participation of all relevant stakeholders. And you can then use the grounded theory approach to employ and capture the essence of those outcomes, evaluating multiple perspectives and contributing to interpretive theories of emergent properties of the system. Now, going back to thinking of systems thinking, system thinking is a pragmatic approach, okay, to deal with the problems of societal system. And therefore, we cannot solve any societal system without considering the complexities and the interdependence, okay? And therefore, integrated research methods such as interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary methods can facilitate translation to a new common understanding, while considering diverse perspectives and integrating them based on the commonality. So we have to have such an integrated research system or research methods that would allow us to deal with the societal systems. And here, we need also, like while we are dealing with a systems thinking problem, we come across some challenges, which is like to ensure a balance between the participants. That is, you might have got a good view of what common people want, but you may not have a good view of what experts say, whether there is a solution to what these common people have. And therefore, we need to ensure a balance between the participants taking part in the research process. We also need to have a consensus, because if we are having, and if we are considering various perspectives of the participants, then it could be that the loud voice can come ahead of the game, and we would understand only those voices. But we need to think about the minorities and others also. And therefore, consensus building is very important in having a solution for our societal problems. As well as there should be a clear balance between objectivity and subjectivity. Now, objectivity is achieved through the quantitative research, and subjectivity is achieved through qualitative research. So, however, we need to have both in a very balanced way so that we can have a very good picture or pragmatic picture to deal with the problem. So here I bring you that how we can see transdisciplinarity. Transdisciplinarity is something where we bring all the disciplines together and they engage with each other, and they engage their dialogue with each other, and then we can reach to a new plane of understanding, which is called transdisciplinary, which is across, beyond, and between disciplines. Okay. And another concept which I said about how we can balance objectivity and subjectivity, this can be done by several tools, and very common statistical tools are like component principal analysis or factorial analysis, which allow you to understand a hidden third of a subject and object. And that is very important, and we need to apply those tools here. Sorry. And yeah, okay. And finally, we need to combine the systems thinking. And what I mean by systems thinking is the all the perceptions achieved, numbers, it could be facts, it could be perceptions, which we have gathered from the understanding the whole system. That is, system is made up of all the components, as we talked earlier, human and non-human. And if we understand those all currently, what is the current context in the system, by acquiring all the data, then that is called systems knowledge. But then we have to go to the expert and talk about how we will address this problem, which I have identified after gathering the system knowledge. And we have to match these both, that whether they are working or not. And we have to also evaluate them. And evaluation will consider consensus building and other things, that we are not losing any sight of anyone and so on. And if we are able to do that, then we can translate it into the community for better societal functions. And that can be known as transformation knowledge. Now here I will give you an understanding, an example that, for example, there is a waste. And if we want to understand what can we do about our waste? So first we need to understand how much waste we generate, and how much we can recycle, how much we can not recycle, how much we can probably reuse, and so on. And then we also need to understand how many technologies we have to do all these things. And then we go, taking all the stock of that all system knowledge, we go to the target knowledge, that is elite, who are experts in waste management, and ask them, okay, this particular area is dealing with this problem, and they are having this facts. what can we do to them? So they will analyze and they will see the best uh, approach to deal with that problem. And then they might say several strategies. For example, you need to create awareness, you need to create such technologies, you need to create such facilities, you need to create such products, you need to create such services, and this all needs to be translated into community. And that is how it works. And that is how we can talk about systems thinking, problem solving, and transdisciplinarity I've brought together.